A live now look there at the U.S. Capitol. Well, remember, like I said, so many of President-elect Trump's cabinet picks are still meeting with senators today, including who he wants to head up the Pentagon there, former Fox News host Pete Hegseth. He was meeting with senators today, and our photographers and reporters caught up with him as he was leaving some of those offices. This is very brief. Let's listen.
It's a long day, I know.
Hi, sir. Do you think you have Senator Murkowski's support after your meeting this afternoon?
I appreciate her very much. It was a wonderful meeting and a great discussion.
Can you tell us more about your meeting with Senator Daines just now? How was that?
Also excellent. Just so much insight across the board from all these senators. He's a great guy, like the others we met with, and fun to go up and down the board on issues and talk about it, get his insight.
What kind of questions did Senator Murkowski ask?
Have a good day, man.
Have a good night.
Okay, so reporters following the Hegseth entourage there to the elevator. That was after his meeting with, I believe, Senator Steve Daines of Montana. So he also met with Lisa Murkowski, the Republican from Alaska. Aisha Hasni asked him about that talk. He said it was excellent. I appreciate her input a great deal. Let's talk about some of these meetings and more with our colleague there at Fox News Radio, Ryan Schmelz. He joins me. Ryan, good to see you here. So many of these cabinet picks are on the Hill. You and I talked last week about the Hegseth nomination and how it was somewhat on the ropes. He was facing a lot of criticism over some of these reports and allegations about some of the indecent behavior and improprieties that he allegedly faced when it comes to infidelity and excessive drinking and the like here. How is the Hegseth nomination doing this week?
I would say, Andrew, it's a pretty drastically strong improvement from last week. You know, he's spent a lot of this week meeting with the senators who probably are going to be pretty vital to getting him confirmed. That includes Lisa Murkowski, like you just said. That's somebody who is not a big Trump supporter, so certainly somebody who could have been skeptical of his nomination. So far, from what we've heard from them, it seemed like it was a productive conversation they had. But he also had been meeting with Joni Ernst, the senator from Iowa, who had been a little hesitant to come out and support Hegseth. But by this week, she has now said that she is going to support him for now. But her kind of support notice that she put out on X didn't seem like a firm support, but it did seem like as of right now, she's going to support him through this process. That's the exact quote. So you can interpret that a lot of ways. Does that mean she's ultimately going to vote for him on the floor? I don't think that's a guarantee. But as of right now, she has a support barring anything else that comes out that may be concerning.
So, Ryan, I mean, how many Republican senators can Hegseth lose but still be confirmed? Do we know that number?
The total number would be 4. He can get to 50, and then J.D. Vance can break the tie on his nomination. So as long as he does not lose 4 senators total, Republicans will have a 53-seat majority. So he can lose 3, it gets down to 50. J.D. Vance can then break the tie. But if he loses more than that, then his nomination could very well be doomed.
So, I mean, what are you hearing kind of writ large about how these picks are going? Not just Hegseth, but we also want to put up this here. Kash Patel, Trump's pick for FBI director, was also on the Hill meeting with senators. You see him here. Let's take a this. So are any of these picks that you've heard, that you've seen reporting, the reporting you've done, facing any hurdles or obstacles, or is it smooth sailing? I saw a post by Republican Senator from Arkansas, Tom Cotton, saying confidently that every pick will get confirmed here. Is that the feeling on Capitol Hill or not?
For the most part, it seems like it's trending that direction, but there are still some out there who have their fair share of hurdles. I think one of them, and I mean, timing could not have been more unlucky for this individual, which is Tulsi Gabbard, where, she started making her rounds on Capitol Hill, and then the fall of Assad happened in Syria. So with his regime falling, her past statements that have been seen as sympathetic by some to the Assad regime and also sympathetic to Russia are certainly coming up and certainly a factor here. There's some senators like James Lankford of Oklahoma who pointed out that he has some concerns about past comments she's made about Edward Snowden. So we had to keep in mind with somebody like Tulsi Gabbard. This is somebody who has been a Democrat for just about her entire life. I think up until this election cycle, she was a Democrat. She was somebody who endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2016. And the difference between somebody like her and Kash Patel and Robert Kennedy Jr. is that Tulsi Gabbard was a member of Congress. So keep in mind, her voting record is public. And when you've got a 10% lifetime score with the Heritage Foundation, there's a lot of liberal votes that you've got on your record that you're going to have to answer for.
So, Ryan, let's talk about another former liberal or current liberal. I don't know how you want to describe him. I'm talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. When do his meetings with senators start? He's up for the job at HHS. Haven't seen him yet on Capitol Hill, have we?
Yeah, we have not seen him just yet. I think we are expecting his visits to start sometime next week. And I think his confirmation process might be the one that stands, has the biggest obstacle just in terms of logistics. The reason I say that, and I think I've talked about this on this program with you before, is that he would have to go through what's called the Senate Help Committee. That's the committee that is going to be chaired by Bill Cassidy in the next Congress, somebody who supported the second impeachment of President-elect Trump. And then if they keep the same members on it, then you're also going to have Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, two other people who supported impeachment and also didn't endorse President-elect Trump this election cycle. So they could be obstacles in his way. But one thing that could be helpful to him is that it doesn't seem like Bernie Sanders is a firm no on Robert Kennedy Jr. He could be somebody who might actually support his nomination in the end. He's not come out and said it publicly, either denying it or confirming it. But I think he's somebody you could watch as somebody who could flip on somebody like Tulsi Gabbard and Robert Kennedy Jr., especially since I believe Bernie Sanders has a pretty close relationship with Tulsi Gabbard to begin with.
I want to ask you about this that's kind of rearing its head, and murmurs have been out there that some of these Republicans on the fence, these senators, like Joni Ernst maybe with the Hegseth nomination, that there will be ultimately an effort, if they vote no on any of these people, to primary them in their next election here. Markwayne Mullin, the senator from Oklahoma, said that would not be wise today. He was on some of the cable networks saying to whoever is coming up with these ideas not to pursue such a thing. Are you hearing that or not? And where did this come from?
I am hearing it too, but most of that has been noise from social media commentators. You do not hear that from within the Senate. You have not even heard that from Trump world or even some of his most loyal allies out there. So most of that is from a lot of social media stars and maybe political commentators who've been pushing this idea of possibly primarying somebody like Joni Ernst if she ultimately decides not to vote for Pete Hegseth. You know, you have, like you just mentioned, Markwayne Mullin saying that she should not face a primary. And then you also have Senator John Cornyn, who said it would be premature to be talking about primary efforts if, in fact, somebody like Ernst is not on board with Hegseth just yet. He said, they've got a constitutional duty to vet these nominees, and that's what they're doing. So I feel like a lot of the elected Republicans and even members of the Trump administration are kind of letting the process play out as of right now. But, that could always change if someone wants to get a little bit more vocal in those circles.
So, Ryan, while we have you, we just got some new announcements for some of these posts, not cabinet-level posts, but as we know, the Trump-Vance transition is trying to fill out the federal government here. Just want to get you to respond to some of them. These are coming in literally right now. So the most interesting is he has nominated Kimberly Guilfoyle as the next U.S. ambassador to Greece. Reports have shown, and this has been well documented, that she is either dating his son, Donald Trump Jr., or they are engaged. Also, we also have this from the New York Post, Ryan, that Trump taps Kimberly Guilfoyle to serve as U.S. ambassador to Greece after a reported split with Don Jr., making this even kind of more interesting. More names, though. Andrew Ferguson to be the chair of the FTC. Also, Jacob Hellberg. He'll be the Undersecretary of State at the State Department for Economic Growth, Energy, and the Environment. Tom Barak as the next U.S. ambassador to Turkey. He's a longtime friend of the president-elect's. And remember, he got caught up in some of these alleged violations of the Foreign Agent Registration Act for his lobbying efforts in the Middle East. He also chaired the inaugural committee during Trump's first term. And then Dan Bishop, the former congressman from North Carolina, and current, rather, as Deputy Director for Budget at the Office of Management and Budget there. So just some new posts and pics coming in. Kimberly Guilfoyle, that one, I think, is getting a lot of attention online. Trump saying, "I'm very pleased to announce the appointment of Kimberly Guilfoyle as the U.S. ambassador to Greece." He says, "For many years, Kimberly has been a close friend and ally there." So, Ryan, your reaction to any of these?
Well, I think the one that stands out right there is Dan Bishop, because he's the one I actually know and have talked to several times since he's been in Congress. And, Dan Bishop is somebody who's been a very vocal critic of Republican Party leadership when it comes to how they spend money and how they negotiate deals in the House. And also he's been critical of how the Senate does it too. So if there was a position for Dan Bishop to be in where he's either got to live up to what he's been preaching over his entire congressional career, well, the Office of Budget and Management is certainly that spot. So this is somebody who probably will get a lot of praise from conservative circles as being a hardline fiscal conservative, but he's going to have to get the job done. So I think that certainly stands out. And it kind of has that trend of either outgoing members of Congress or former members of Congress who are joining the administration, but also joining in a way that doesn't cost House Speaker Mike Johnson his majority.
Yeah, that's always what you have to contend with as well. I want to just put this up. We're hearing from Kimberly Guilfoyle. She says, "I'm honored to accept President Trump's nomination to serve as the next ambassador to Greece, and I look forward to earning the support of the U.S. Senate." And we have to remind viewers, I mean, these ambassadorships are incumbent on Senate confirmation here. So it's not necessarily like these picks will just go to Athens, what have you, as the Trump administration starts. They do have to be Senate confirmed. Ryan, while we have you, just briefly, there was quite a scare for Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell today in the Capitol. I want to put this up from Chad Pergram. He has a statement in from McConnell's spokesperson here. If we have that, we can turn to that. That McConnell suffered a fall here and injured himself. What more do we know?
Well, from what we understand is that, number one, Leader McConnell is fine. Number one, you had the incoming Majority Leader, John Thune, say that at his press conference. You had some spokesmembers say that he is fine, too. And then we got that statement eventually as well. And it looks like McConnell fell. He cut his face. And then he also sprained his wrist. And there were some photos of him with a cast on a little bit later on. So from what we understand, it looks like McConnell is doing okay. But, of course, you can understand maybe some of the noise that came out of that and the scare that came out of that, because he had a very public, actually very couple of public episodes not too long ago where he actually froze while he was recovering from a concussion during public events. One was at a weekly press conference where he got up there and he froze on stage and had to be, helped off by John Barrasso, the now whip. And, he eventually did come back to that press conference and took more questions than he normally does. But these recent health scares plus his age, I think have kind of contributed to some of the worry that happens whenever these incidents happen. But from what we understand right now, McConnell is okay.
Ryan, do we know if any senators saw him fall?
Not that I know of. I haven't gotten any eyewitness testimony yet.
Okay, I just want to put this up. This is the statement that Chad put out from McConnell's spokesperson, saying Leader McConnell tripped following lunch. He sustained a minor cut to the face and sprained his wrist, and he has been cleared to resume his schedule, though he was not at the weekly press conference for Senate Republicans there on Capitol Hill. And you see there him with the bandage on his face. So we wish him well in his recovery. Ryan Schmelz, as always, that was a lot to cover, and we always appreciate your time. We'll talk soon.
Hey, thank you, Andrew. Have a great night.
Thank you. All right, in the meantime here, we do want to take a quick commercial break. There's still a lot more to get to on this very busy Tuesday. We'll see you in 2 minutes.